Our next session for the day is More Than a Destination, India as an Experience, which is being moderated by Ms. Ragini Chopra. She's the Group Head of Corporate Affairs for Interglobe Enterprises. Joining her as a panelist would be Mr. Ajay Jain, IAS, Special Secretary, Department of Housing and Youth Advancement, Tourism and Culture, Government of Andhra Pradesh, and Ms. Shreya Singhal, IAS, Managing Director, Jammu and Kashmir Tourism Development Corporation, CEO, Jammu and Kashmir Economic Reconstruction Agency.
Why don't you come in the center?
You should be in the center.
Is this on? Thank you and good afternoon. I don't think this is on. Yeah? Can you hear? Okay. I'm delighted to have you both. Thank you for joining us today. One is a state that I've visited very often, beautiful. One is a state that I have lived in, and again, exotic and beautiful. So since we also have the Honorable Minister going to join us later, I shall be quick and have the questions with you all right in the beginning so that we can have. I have two questions which are to both of you, right? So here it is, and you can answer it in whatever form. What do you see as your state's most distinctive tourism strength today, and how are you sharpening it into a clear, experience-led proposition? So maybe give the lady to start.
A very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the warm introduction, and I take this opportunity to thank you for inviting us to this conference. A great opportunity for us and the state and the UT as well. To answer your question, I would just start by saying that fortunately we are representing Jammu and Kashmir. So a lot of you must have already visited the place. So a lot of you must be aware what the place offers. As such, we are blessed with nature, natural bounty in all forms, in all the places, all seasons. That is one thing. At this point of time, from the point of view of investment, I would like to say that anybody who comes to Jammu and Kashmir right now also has the advantage of being a first mover. So as government, we are also seeing Jammu and Kashmir as not just a single tourism destination, but also as an experience-led tourism destination, as the title of the conference also says that. So we are also exploring into new avenues of tourism. It can be film tourism, it can be a sports-led tourism. Apart from, everybody must be well aware of Gulmarg, one of the premier skiing destination thronged by tourists, especially both from India and abroad in the winters. So these are 2-3 areas where we as government are pushing very much, and we would like other stakeholders to come and explore these areas. To start with, I think I would rest my case here.
Thank you.
Then we'll
so what about you? What do you see as
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ragini ji. As you rightly said, see, Andhra Pradesh, I would say it is all-in-one experiences. Why I'm saying that is like the beaches. So we have almost the beaches of Goa, we have the Sri Lanka beach, the Vizag beach. People say for backwaters Kerala, we have the backwaters of Konasima. Temples of Tamil Nadu are famous. We have the Tirupati temple and other temples as well. And then the forests of Karnataka, we have the forest of Araku Valley and all. So what I'm saying, the best of everything is in one state. So if a visitor has lot of time, yes, he can visit all the states. But if it's very short time, if he wants all-in-one experience, unique experience, so that is what Andhra has to offer, I would say. Yes, coming to that, our tourist places, of course, we are very strong in domestic tourism. We are number third in the country, thanks to Lord Balaji, of course, nothing of our contribution. Lord Balaji alone brings about, a huge number of visitors. And then the temples are famous, so religious tourism, temple tourism, then the beaches are there, Araku Valley is there, we have the hill stations and all, the backwaters of Konaseema are there. So that is all. Now what we are going to do is, now basically the tourists are coming, but they're coming for a specific purpose. So basically today's generation wants more kinds of experiences. Now, so and then luxury properties. So the new destinations people are looking at, like one example I would say, Sri Lanka beach. So it is on the same latitude, as that of Goa. And then same good beaches are there, but it's not that popular.
Perhaps you should.
So like it's very close to Hyderabad. So now people are coming there. Then we have the Grand Canyon of India, Gandikota. It's very close to Bangalore. So people are coming there. So what we are trying to do is to develop new destinations, develop experiences around that, the cuisine experience, the cultural experience, the homestays experience, the caravan, and new products we are trying to bring. And then the new tourism policy addresses all these issues. And then we were very short on the room inventory. Entire Andhra Pradesh, we had hardly 4,500 classified rooms which were there prior to 2024. After the new government has taken over, we have added almost 7,700 rooms have been sanctioned, out of which 50% the works have already commenced. So I think because unless you have good stays, you have good properties to stay, homestay, caravan, so new experiences, that is what the new generation is looking at. So we are trying to, diversify into new areas, new destinations, new experiences.
Perfect. So, I wanted to ask you, it's quite a crowded tourism landscape, and J&K definitely has distinctive features. Are you sort of communicating this through all these modern means of storytelling and branding and a digital outreach?
Yes, I think as you have mentioned, it's a growing tourism space. It is crowded, but still, given the immense potential of the of Jammu and Kashmir, it is not enough still. So, although in recent years we have seen historic tourists thronging to various locations of Jammu and Kashmir, not just the main destinations, but also to the lesser known destinations. So. About the branding and about the outreach to these tourists, we are definitely going into new arenas of outreach. For example, we are doing a lot of event-based marketing. For example, some of you may be aware about the Kashmir Marathon. We recently held the 3rd edition of Kashmir Marathon. So we are basing our entire marketing strategy around those events. So that is one area where we are working. Similarly, for other sports events like maybe the Khelo India, or as I mentioned, skiing, etc. Then one of, as sir also mentioned, in religious tourism. So we are also blessed by Mata Vaishno Devi, and by virtue of that, we get almost 1 crore plus tourists in Jammu and Kashmir. So around that theme, we are trying to build our marketing strategy. So that is how we are going into the space and open to new avenues to how to bring the experiences of Jammu and Kashmir to the tourists overall. So that's
it is a fact that both the states are blessed with temples that bring in the religious tourism, and I think I want to broad base that a little bit to say, are you looking at some iconic event or an iconic, let's say, festival, or which is determined well in advance, promoted both domestically and internationally? Just to give an example that may not be the right example, but the Lit Fest in Jaipur, for example, has become a regular feature at a regular time, and both domestic and international markets come there. Are you looking at something like that, and are you? So let me start with you.
Definitely. Ragniji, as you rightly said, see, events are a big promotional opportunities for the states. And we in the state, as per the directions of our Honorable Chief Minister, we have finalized 8 mega events. 8 mega events, as you rightly said, Jaipur Literary Festival, those same organizers, they are doing for our new capital Amravati. same literary festival. So we had it for the first time. And now our government have decided, in fact, cabinet has approved a tourism calendar, an events calendar for the next 5 years.
Okay.
So it is not going to be 1 year affair, so it is for next 5 years. So that the event managers and also the visitors and the tourists, they know that this event is going to be held on a particular day. So like this Vishakha Utsav, Vishakha Araku, we have named it Sea to Sky Festival. So we had the first edition recently. Similarly, Flamingo Festival, Pulicat Lake is there, which is famous for flamingos. Then we have the Gandikota, which is the Grand Canyon. So that was so like this 8 events we have finalized. So they would be done every year for the next 5 years. The budget has been finalized. The agencies we are going to finalize for the next 5 years, same agency. And the ultimate idea is they should be self-sustaining. Over a period of time, government need not have to spend money.
Right.
Initially, yes, but then we will find corporate sponsors and all. So like this way, 8 festivals across the state on a fixed time. And most of the festivals are between the period from October to February because that is climatically wise suitable for us. So like these events we are promoting to begin with nationally, but then yes, over a period of time it could attract international visitors as well.
Ma'am,
Yes. So I think this is one arena where even we have realized that it holds a lot of potential. Clearly earmarked calendar, well-curated events, even for tourists who are coming for attending those events itself. So there's a huge potential in this. So as I mentioned, marathons. We are also making an annual sports-based tourism calendar because there is again a lot of potential for sports-based tourism there. Then there are a series of events that we are planning. It is difficult for us to fix the date because a lot of them are weather-based. For example, we have a tulip festival. We have just now recently we have chrysanthemums festival. In Jammu region, we have during the Navratras. So, but tentatively, we have some timings, and then we are moving forward to kind of standardize these events and make them a part of national calendars. So that is how we are moving forward
Yeah.
with them.
I think the reason that I was stressing on having fixed dates and having it for a duration is because then the marketing becomes much easier, not only domestically but internationally. And I'm sure at some stage you would look at the international market. So that brings me to my next question, which is, I know both the states have done their own version of incentives to attract investment in tourism, to give confidence to people that want to come in and invest. And most people want a policy that is actionable, that is not just a stated policy, but it will be actually executed and will be consistent over a period of time, so it will not change. So perhaps you'd like to articulate what do you have in your policy that could attract a lot of these investors?
Yeah, I would say already a lot of investors have been attracted already.
I saw that both your doors were open, yes.
So basically our tourism policy, the new government had released in 2024, December 2024. It is for a period of 5 years. And then to begin with, tourism has been given the industry status, which was the long, of course, many states have earlier done it, but in our state, it was a long pending demand, which was accepted. And then apart from particularly our target is to attract hotels and resorts and amusement parks and all, because that is one area where we were lagging behind. So to attract hotel industry, many incentives have been given. There is a capital subsidy for the investors up to 40 crores per project. Mm-hmm. Then there's a SGST, the state GST is reimbursed for a period of 7 to 15 years, depending on the investment made. The stamp duty is reimbursed. Electricity, water and other charges are as per the industrial tariffs, not as per the commercial tariffs. And perhaps the most important thing is the land banks which we have. See, most of the prime locations, some of them are with the government near the beaches or at beautiful locations. So all these land banks, we have a land allotment guidelines as well, wherein all the lands have been notified in the website. Any potential investor, they can apply for it with a detailed project report. And from a committee based on their investment, based on their net worth, based on the experience in hospitality and all, it is allotted. So in last 1 year, as I was mentioning earlier, 44 projects with 7,700 keys have been cleared by the State Investment Promotion Board, out of which more than 50%, almost 22 projects are under grounding stage now. Okay. So it's a huge incentive, and now developers in the first, when we came Last year in April 2026, we were after the investors, but now
Now
I
they
would
are
say
after.
it is the other way around. Now the investors are approaching because they have seen the results, and the groups like Mayfair, groups like Oberoi, groups like Taj, Hilton, you name the group. I mean, today it has a presence. We have added 14 new brands in Andhra Pradesh in last 1 year. 40
Wow.
new brands have been added. So people have the confidence, and I'm sure that with more and more now we are finding difficulty in identifying the land parcels. In fact, such has been the response. Response has been very good in our new capital, Amravati, then Vishakhapatnam, of course, Arakku Valley, Tirupati, Surya Lanka, Gandikota. So all the places. And now we are focusing on Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities also, because the district headquarters also, the hotels are being given. And what Honorable CM has done is, which is a very good decision, any prime land of the government belonging to any department, because you must be knowing many of the state guest houses, the R&B, the roads and buildings, PWD guest houses, prime locations not maintained well. So he has decided all this should be given to tourism department and in turn given to potential investors who can come and maintain. Our own properties also, AP tourism development properties, now we are giving on operation and maintenance contract to reputed players. So I think it has been a very good response, and we expect that this to continue.
Ma'am, I
Yes.
know it's many states are now getting quite aggressive with their
Yes.
policies. What do you have and what are you looking at in the next few?
So for Jammu Kashmir, I think one of the first states in the country to offer industry status to tourism. It simply floats from how important tourism as a sector is for the economy of Jammu and Kashmir. There is more than huge employment provided by tourism sector. Contribution to GDP is very substantial. So that way, our tourism policy 2021, which is valid for 10 years, fairly well-rounded policy made after consultation with a lot of stakeholders. It also offers capital subsidies, then utility subsidies, electricity subsidies, then also interest subvention schemes. So the attempt is to make it a well-rounded policy. Another, in this policy, I think one of the focus of the government is to promote sustainable tourism also. So we are, in the policy itself, we are promoting brands which are bringing maybe energy efficient systems, brands which are trying to reach out to areas which are hitherto not accessible or not so popular. So that is how we have graded the benefits in the policy as well, and it has been received well. We are also trying to streamline the registration processes for the industry stakeholders there, because in Jammu and Kashmir, again, a lot of local stakeholders are also there in this sector. There are a lot of local hotel developers, people who are engaged in operations of a lot of hotels. Along with this, moving beyond the tourism policy, we are also trying to integrate the tourism sector with our other sectors. For example, even in industrial policy of Jammu and Kashmir, which is again a very fairly evolving document, we are also trying to link our tourism policy with the industrial policy benefits. So the person who is coming to Jammu and Kashmir to set up a tourism infrastructure, he also derives similar and even better benefits under the industrial policy. Along with it, we are also working on a PPP policy. As Sir also mentioned, there are a lot of properties with the government, with the corporation, tourism corporation, may not be managed very well today, but we would want private players to come in and do operation and maintenance of those properties. We recently did outsourcing of one of the key property in Srinagar, brought in a major brand there. So that is how we are taking steps towards that. So that apart from it, also just to mention, we also have a film policy which includes, which is again integrated with the tourism policy. So which also include a lot of incentives, subsidies for both old and the new filmmakers. So that is how we are trying to make the entire sector into a very interlinked kind of policy area. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the infrastructure side and connectivity side, do you see any gaps? I know you have our civil aviation minister there, but how effective are the connectivity, roads, etc., that you are seeing?
Ragniji, as you rightly said, infrastructure is one of the key for the success of tourism, particularly in terms of air connectivity. Now see, we have got airports now, 7 airports are there. There's a new airport, international airport coming at Visakhapatnam. 2 other districts. Vision of our Honorable Chief Minister is within 100 kilometers, there should be an airport. That means from any destination, a tourist need not have to, after landing, he did not have to travel more than 100 kilometers to reach any destination. So with that, the works on 4 new airports are going on. Then important question is, after the airports come, obviously to begin with, airlines would seek some viability gap funding. To begin with, it is not easy. So as part of the Udan scheme of Government of India, for example, Kurnool, we have an airport. So it is not viable, but then today there are flights from Chennai, there are flights from Bangalore, there are flights from Visakhapatnam, Vijayawada. So government is giving the VGF funding. And we were the first states to reduce the VAT on ATF.
Yes, I must compliment you on
Way back in 2014, it was reduced to 1%. Today, Government of India is requesting states to reduce it. We did it in 2014 itself. That's the vision of our Honorable CM. So he realizes this. And then again, I'm happy to say it now, seaplanes. We are introducing, Government of India have sanctioned 10 water drums, water aerodrums now, so from 10 places, and they have sanctioned viability gap funding. So 20 crores they are giving for each water aerodrum, and also viability gap funding for seaplane operations. So places where, this is, for example, a place like Srisailam, so which has both a Jyotirlingam and a Shakti Peetham, it does not have any air connectivity, and an airport cannot be built there because of the terrain. But we have the reservoir there, 365 days water. So there seaplane we are introducing from Prakasham Barrage to there, and also amphibious aircraft from Hyderabad to this thing. And in terms of road connectivity, of course, national highways are there, and now Vande Bharat is coming. So definitely, government is taking all this step. Now, Araku Valley is another area where we do not have an airport. So again, there we are introducing seaplane from Vizag to Araku Valley.
Okay.
So now what takes 3 hours drive will be hardly 10 to 15 minutes ride. So this government is spending a lot of money on infrastructure, and fortunately Government of India is also supporting in these initiatives.
What about you, ma'am?
So I think Jammu Kashmir is one place wherein good connectivity infrastructure can do wonders for the place. I am sure all of you must have seen the beautiful photos of the Chenab Arc Bridge. So it has done it has made a history in itself by connecting Jammu to Kashmir. So now, even in terms of domestic tourists who used to throng Mata Vaishno Devi, but for the sake of connectivity couldn't enter to the Kashmir Valley. So now we see a lot of people making their plans such that they would visit Mata Vaishno Devi and then go to Kashmir and have an all-round experience of Jammu and Kashmir. So I think that is one. So in general, Jammu and Kashmir has been one key area for better connectivity development, both from Government of India as well as from the UT government itself. If you would see the penetration of roads, it's already very high, and we are also almost more than 5,000 crore of investment in coming years would be going into building road infrastructure itself. From air connectivity point of view, right now also I think both Srinagar and Jammu very well connected throughout the country, and also internationally. We are also upgrading both the airports, both Srinagar and Jammu, because recently we got approval for construction of an entire new terminal at Srinagar. So we are very hopeful that this would help us connect with even more tourists, because that is air travel. It is also very reasonable, very cheap, and one of the prime mode of transportation for people to enter into Srinagar, apart from train, which has just started. So yes.
So you do find that the number of flights at the moment are adequate, or are you looking at adding more?
In terms
or
of
any
number,
destination from
yes,
India
yes.
from where you were wanting to add flights?
Yes. So in terms of number, I would think that it would be adequate, but in terms of destination, we can definitely add some, especially from emerging destinations, maybe from Ayodhya or maybe from down south. The emerging destination, we can definitely have a better connectivity. Yes.
I was going to actually talk to you about your seasonality, because we know that lots of crowds go in the summer, but I know you have winter sports. But people who are not necessarily into winter sports, how are you trying to attract that market in the winter months?
I think yes, winter sport is one of key area, especially our winter destinations. Gulmarg is one of our key winter destinations, known for skiing. But right now we are trying to diversify our tourist season, and we are marketing Jammu and Kashmir as a 12-month tourist season. So not just winters, we are also, as I mentioned about the Tulip Festival, even autumns we have festivals. So we are trying to organize these small festivals, trying to gauge interest of the public and how we can better, on a massive scale, we can organize them, and then move to a full-fledged 12-month destination. So Gulmarg is one, but we are also having key destination at Pahalgam. Sometimes earlier, because of the very extreme weather conditions, a lot of hotels would shut down. But then we are trying for all the hotels to allow them to stay open for around the year. Then also in Jammu region, we are developing not from sports tourism perspective, but for people to come and experience the snow maybe in a very leisurely manner and not from adventure point of view also. So those areas also we are expanding and trying to make it comfortable for people across segments, not just for adventures, but even in autumn, spring. So that's where we are heading. Yes.
Okay, another question, which is again to both of you. The Honorable Prime Minister has said that he would like 50 destinations, one per state, to be developed. Is there a particular concept or destination that you are proposing or have worked towards or are working towards for that proposal, sir?
Yeah, as you rightly said, in fact, we have already started the work. Part of the 50 destinations, it is not one we are proposing. We have already proposed 2 destinations.
I see.
So one is Vishakhapatnam and other is Tirupati. So these 2 destinations, the prime requirement was availability of land. So we have identified about 70 to 100 acres of land both in Vishakhapatnam and Tirupati. And we also have this Vishakhapatnam economic region and Tirupati economic region on the pattern. So we are working closely with Niti Aayog, what they have done in Surat and Varanasi. Similarly, Vishakhapatnam economic region has been formed now, which is headed by Honorable Chief Minister. And the Tirupati economic region also we have formed. So these are the 2 destinations, already have a high footfall, but then to bring in more experiences, amusement parks, extend the duration of stay of the tourists, and because Government of India would be funding close to 500 crores is what we were told for development of infrastructure in these 2 destinations. And state government has to support by way of incentives and by way of land bank. So already the work has been identified, the land has been identified, and then what needs to be done we have planned. Now we are awaiting final guidelines from GOI so that we can move forward.
So this is going to be actually a selection process, I'm
Yes,
told, right?
we do understand.
So you will work
Yeah, we
towards
would-
this
we-
bid
yeah, we would
and
pitch
then
in.
hope that
Yes.
it would be. What about you? For you?
The same applies for us. We have in fact we have also in fact finalized 2 destinations. One is Gulmarg, as I was mentioning earlier also, and other is the Patni Top in Jammu division. So for that, in this scheme, Jammu Kashmir has one advantage. We already have an established development authorities in place under our state act. So that gives us a structure of DMO, the Destination Management Organization, in place. Of course, we need to do some augmentation. We need to create some capacity in the existing staff, but we do have a structure. So we have identified land banks at both places, and given the geography, it is slightly tricky to identify a contiguous land in both these places, but we have tried to identify some land parcels. We have earmarked them, and as per the scheme guidelines, mostly it is public-private partnership basis. So we are working on that. We have a model of how we would want to develop it, and as soon as the scheme releases, we would be in a position to work ahead on it. So yes.
So, just for you, this question, one of the key visuals of Jammu and Kashmir was the lake and the shikara. And I know over a period of time, that whole area suffered because of the lake and the cleanliness and the upkeep of the shikaras. What is happening in that area?
So for lake management, we have a separate designated entity known as the Lake Conservation Management Authority. And in recent times, as we have said, there was a lot of menace of weeding and cleanliness in and around lake, also illegal constructions, encroachments by public. So a dedicated plan, a time-based plan has been worked out by the authority, and in recent days there have been multiple campaigns to clean the Shikara and also to sensitize the local stakeholders there, because cleanliness cannot be a one-time job. It has to be a recurring kind of thing. So unless we take the community with us, it would become very difficult. So again, it is a multi-pronged strategy that we are working on. And over the past few years, there has been improvement in also the water quality, and we are hoping to see this improvement and on a regular basis, so on a consistent basis, yes.
And in terms of getting more hotels in, or you've been here, do you see, thank you, have you seen an interest, because perception-wise, perception is reality, and a lot of people have concerns on the perception. But what is your experience been during this conference? Have you seen interest? And
No, it's very encouraging. In fact, I was complimenting the Invest India team also for having organized the conference very well. In fact, we were pleasantly surprised by the amount of interest we saw. We were expecting a lot of interest from key investors, because we have been getting a lot of queries for investors who want to make a foray into Jammu and Kashmir. So we have had productive discussions with many of them. Some of them are already there. Some of them want to expand their newer verticals into Jammu and Kashmir. So I think post the conference, a lot of them have shown keen interest in visiting some of our properties, which we are also keen to outsource on management basis. So hopefully after the conference, we'll get in touch with them, and in the next edition of the conference, we would also have some good success stories of
I'm sure you
Yes,
will,
yes.
and I think we must compliment HICSA for bringing together the states and the investors and the operators. My last question to both of you. We've been riding so high on domestic tourism, and I know it's sustaining all of us in the industry, but do you have any sights at international markets? And if so, what are you doing about it?
You see, as far as international tourism is concerned, I said we are weak in international tourism, very strong in domestic, but internationally, see, we have to see the regions from which we can target the tourists and what there should be a reason for them to come to our place. So to be very honest, so Buddhist circuit is one in which we have a strong chance of attracting tourists, particularly from Southeast Asian countries, the people from Japan, people from China, Thailand, Vietnam, etc. So we have got strong Buddhist sites, apart from Bodh Gaya and others. So Acharya Nagarjuna had was there, so Nagarjuna Kunda, Totla Kunda, Amravati, so ancient Buddhic relics are there. So that is one area where we are targeting. We are working closely with the embassies of these countries. We also had a delegation visit from Vietnam. We had a partnership state agreement with Vietnam tours, and we are working closely with IOTA to bring in these investors and all. So this is one area definitely. And the wellness tourism is another area in which we can target definitely some market from Europeans and all, because to expect, to be very honest, Europeans to come to our beaches as of now, because unless you have high-end properties or you have something like what Kerala has to offer and all, it's very difficult. And then another thing we must realize is a strong challenge from Southeast Asia, what Thailand is offering now. Yeah. So they are offering for weddings they are offering money, for MICE they are giving money, government is spending money to attract tourists. So that kind of aggressive promotion our neighboring countries are doing, which unfortunately we are not in a position to do so. So to expect them to come, it is very difficult task. But yes, Buddhist is one, wellness tourism is another, Ayurveda, if we have good resorts and all, and then MICE is another, of course, MICE and wedding. Wedding, of course, international will not come, it will be domestic only, but MICE, yes, definitely. So we are setting up a MICE bureau in the state. Okay. So that will come in. So then some of the international conferences, the state government can also pitch. So I think these are the areas which we are targeting.
And you, ma'am?
In our case, I would say that given the ecosystem, having a lot of a mass tourism kind of thing may not work, because we are because of the ecosystem constraints and because of the vision of the government. So I think we are focusing on niche tourism sectors, even for attracting the international tourists. One is, of course, the skiing potential. Skiing tourism. We on an annual basis we get well-trained and professional skiers during the season to Gulmarg. They would come do heli skiing, slopes. They find the slopes.
So it's more sports oriented.
Yes, more sports oriented, and further in the marathons also, given the scenic location and also the technicalities involved, we see a lot of interest from foreign athletes. So that is one area. Another is, it is just an emerging segment which we are trying to create for yoga and meditation. So that is one area where we are foraying into. So hopefully, again, foreign tourists would be our main kind of audience for that. Very good, very beautiful location in the foothills of Mata Vaishno Devi. So that is something we are very keen, and hopefully it will take off very soon, and then we will have another segment which is made for the international tourists. Yes.
Thank you very much, both of you. I think we are honored that we have the Honorable Minister with us, Honorable Minister for Andhra Pradesh, Shri Durgesh. We'd like to have you please come. We can sit there, actually. No, we can sit there.
Thank you, Ragini ji.